table, and how do you split equity among them? Now, this gets the conversation going. We actually have an AI-based co-founder equity split calculator that actually, our founders go through, spend like half an hour, 15 to 30 minutes on this, putting in details about their startup, about their founders, and then this uses data from thousands of companies to identify the right equity split for your startup. So we get off on a good foundational elements. We get off, by understanding what are the right foundational elements for your business, and then we go to understanding your big picture. Now, often entrepreneurs, don't think big enough. They don't see the forest from the trees, and it's sometimes tough, right? And there are different aspects of your business that kind of go into creating that ultimate moonshot. We have created this moonshot canvas that helps you in identifying some of the aspects that get into building your big picture, identifying what are the social and environmental impacts of your startup, who are the people who will benefit, and what is the greatest purpose for your startup, what's the breakthrough technology that will enable your startup, and what are the financial impact that you will make, and then that contributes towards building your moonshot. Once you have that, you can actually, build out your moonshot and your mission and vision statement. Now, the way to use this is we ask, you to invite your co-founders, your advisors, your other team members, maybe your investors as well, to kind of come in and, work together using something as simple as sticky notes in order to fill this out and fill other frameworks as well, and work collaboratively towards building some of these modules. Okay, so this is around thinking big. Once you have a good big picture and a moonshot on your, identified, it's time to dive deep into your value proposition. Now, for your value proposition, we take a, empathetic route to understanding that. It starts off by understanding your customers, and more importantly, what are some of the desires that your customer has to which your product or service will speak to most powerfully. As human beings, we all have certain basic human desires. These are things that we need. And we have some learned desires. These are things that we want, right? And if you look at any great product, whether it's a consumer product like Instagram or it's a B2B product like Salesforce.com, it speaks to certain, of these basic human desires and learned desires quite powerfully, right? For instance, Instagram speaks to, we see a lot of food and beverages there. It talks about people post comfortable living conditions, the feeling to be, the need to be superior or to be winning, right? Social approval, right? All of these are aspects that kind of get into, that Instagram addresses really well. In case of Salesforce.com, it's more of the learned desires. And typically that's what we see for B2B products, right? The need, the want to be informed constantly and having efficiency with your processes, dependability and quality of your products, right? So understanding some of these aspects that your products and services speaks to most powerfully helps you translate into identifying some of the pains that your startup founders, that your customers have, some of their needs, and some of the gains that they expect from using your product. And you map out your features, your experience, and your benefits against this. And this helps you in identifying and creating a good value proposition statement. A good value proposition statement should communicate concrete results on a monetizable pain. Okay. Once you identify your customer segments and your customer, pains, gains, and needs, and you map out your products, features, experience, and benefits against it, the next is identifying and evaluating, the market size. So the framework around market sizing involves breaking down your market into 3 levels. This is a common framework that is being used by, startup founders and the business professionals since some time. It's important to understand the different levels of market sizes: your total addressable market, your serviceable available market, and your serviceable obtainable market. Understanding those 3 levels and why they are important, is really critical for every founder. You need to understand, why do investors care about this? An investor care about this because they want to know if you're addressing too many or too few with this. Are you spending too much or too little on your market acquisition? Do you have enough money in order to take over this market? And then, the top two levels, the total, the TAM and the SAM, basically give you, the insights into the upside potential. Okay. And for investors, the SOM actually helps them de-risk their business. Okay. So once you identify the market opportunity, okay, the next is to focus on your product. Okay. Now, for your product design, there are different approaches that people take to product design. And regardless of the approach that you use, agile or depending on your company and your product, okay, it's important to make sure that first you differentiate between the functionalities of your product and the features, the additional nice to have features that you provide. And this is sometimes harder, especially for engineers like myself. We get excited by the technical challenge of building new features, but we want to focus back on the customer, right? And understanding a customer's journey of using this product is important. And we do this through what we call the user journey map. Okay, so we use this example of Tinder in order to understand a customer's user journey. And now I don't use Tinder. Okay, I'm happily married. Okay, but what we found is that regardless of your marital status or your relationship status, people understand how Tinder works. Okay, now Tinder, gets their users to go through different steps. And these are 6 different stages that the user goes through, starting from onboarding to setting up their profile, then swiping left and right. Then they eventually find a match. Okay, then they chat with their match, and then they go on to meeting up for a date. Okay, now you want to map out the different stages that a user goes through while using your product, but also map out the emotional highs and lows that they go through while using different, different stages of the product. Identify the actions that the user takes, and what are the opportunities that exist for you in order to enhance the experience of your users at each stage. In case of Tinder, you have an onboarding process. Someone figures out, okay, I found out about this app. Let me download it and see what it is. And then you get into a bit of a low because setting up a profile is not something that most users enjoy, right? But then immediately after that, after each low, actually, Tinder actually gives you a big high, right? You get on a high about, when you, after setting up your profile, you start seeing some amazing pictures and you started swiping, and that gives you a bigger high, right? But when you start doing that and you continue doing that for some time and you don't find a match, there's another low. Okay, but then Tinder's algorithms kick in and they give you, and they try to portray your profile and feature your profile more frequently, and then eventually find a match. You start chatting, with your match, and then again there's a bit of a low. But then when you get bored of chatting, and then Tinder gives you a high about, okay, maybe you should go for a meetup and set up a date, right? So that's the process. Understanding the highs and lows that a user goes through while using your product is important. And this kind of gives you insight into what are the opportunities to make the product experience even better. So using this a Tinder example, you understand the process, and then you build out the user journey map for yourself. So, so understanding the customer journey or user journey is one thing. The next step is around customer development. Okay, so building out a sales process involves the process that we call customer development, and actually starts off by understanding, the different aspects of your product. There are 2 steps to it. First is finding the problem solution fit. This is where you understand what your customer's problem you're solving and what is the solution for that. And the next is identifying the product market fit, which means that, okay, understanding that, okay, does your product or service actually provide the solution that you're proposing? And are there enough people facing the same problem to make it up for a market? And are they willing to pay? Understanding this is important. Okay, we help you in identifying what are some of those, what are some of those, hypotheses or assumptions that you might have made around your problem, solution, product, market, and willingness to pay. And then you go out and talk to customers. You conduct your customer interviews. And often what you'll find is that when entrepreneurs start talking to customers, they find that, okay, they might have missed on certain aspects. So you come back to this and you pivot, okay, and create a new set of hypotheses or thinking. Okay, and you again, identify those, get talking to your customers. Okay, and then again, you'll realize, okay, you might have kind of made some assumptions wrong. And you continue doing that until you achieve what we call the product market fit. Okay, now this is hard because this involves talking to customers. Okay. And in order to make the process easy, we have developed a customer development bingo. Okay. Now we all have played bingo. Okay. But when you talk to your customers, try to address these 8 questions. Okay. And if you have, identified, a good fit for with your customers regarding around all these 8 aspects, that means you have hit your customer development bingo and you've hit product market fit. So hitting a product market fit is one step, okay, or it's rather the first step of building a good customer pipeline. Okay, we in the Hyper Accelerator program, we also get into building a sales plan, a detailed sales plan that identifies what are your sources of leads, what are some of the risks and dependencies and costs associated with them, what is your sales funnel, and what are the different stages in your sales funnel, what are your conversion rates, what are your cost of acquisition and other different metrics associated with your sales process, and how do you actually make them better. So we actually go into those details with the Hyper Accelerator program, but we want to make sure that before you actually get that, you have a good product market fit. You've identified exactly the details of your problem solution fit and your product market fit. The next framework is around execution modeling. Okay, now part of executing on a startup involves making sure that you prioritize accurately and act according to your priorities. Okay, so we use a priority matrix to identify some of the top activities that your startup needs to undertake. Otherwise, your startup might die. This could be in the areas of product development and design, customer acquisition, operations, human resources or team, and your finance and fundraising. And then you kind of go to identifying the urgency and importance of these activities. And this will help you in identifying what things you need to do first, what can you do later, what should you delegate, and what would you rather eliminate. Okay. Now, once you identify this, it's important to kind of map out your key activities on a workflow timeline. This is typically done on a project management tool, and there are different tools out there that companies use for their purposes. Okay, but mapping that out in a simplistic timeline is important, and we have an example here to help you with that as well. Once you create your executional priorities, okay, the next framework is around your cash flow modeling. We teach at some of the top business schools and engineering schools, okay, and even what we found is that even at the MBA students at some of these top business schools often don't understand how to create a good cash flow model. Okay, so we made it rather simple for you to do this. It starts off by actually understanding how are you making money and how are you spending money. Okay, and if you look at making money, you need to look at how, what are your revenue streams, what are your cost of sales, and what's your pricing. And then how are you spending money? What are some of your key cost elements? Okay, understanding your team, understanding your space and operations, understanding marketing expenses and other expenses that you might have. Also, so you start off with this, and then you have a detailed financial model that you can use to create your cash flow model. We also find that often entrepreneurs struggle to understand different vocabulary associated with finance and fundraising. Okay, so we have created some good reference point for you to refer to to some vocab elements of around finance. Now, one of the reasons why our startups have been able to raise as much capital is because of this concept of value creation events or fundable milestones. Okay, now what we found is that it's kind of a mindset that most successful entrepreneurs have. Okay, the mindset is around being able to think about your startup as a series of events that kind of prove that you're on the right track. These events or these milestones prove that you can work together as a team, you can build something, you can, it is useful for someone and you can get your first users and clients, you can talk to investors, you can build audiences, okay? You have a big market for this, you're able to attract talent, okay? You can bring in partners, you can generate, cash and, be profitable, and you can scale. And, think about your startup as a series of milestones that you need to achieve and map out what are those key milestones and metrics that you need to achieve in the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and 2 years. And how is that related to your expected valuation? Okay, so understanding that, is important. Making sure that you understand what are the key milestones associated with your startup journey and how do you actually connect that with your expected valuation is important. Okay. Once you do that, and this is one of our this methodology and this is more of a mindset that we help our entrepreneurs develop, and this is one of the big reasons why our startups have been able to raise as much funding, because they realize what are some of the foundational elements, what are some of the milestones and metrics associated with increasing your valuation over time. Now, part of this involves making sure you have a good team. Okay, so in order to build a good team, what we realized is that there are 3 sets of skills that you require to build a good startup. Okay, it's actually the research proves that there are approximately 2.6 people that you need on a team. Okay, but more importantly, let's look at the skills that are required in building a good startup. And you can classify those skills into 3 personalities or 3 types of people that you need on your team. You need a hacker. There's someone who loves creating new products and is typically the scientist or the engineer on the team. Okay. You need a hustler. This is someone who constantly evangelizes your company or your product for investors, business partners, your customers, and even your HR, right? Because a lot of times attracting the top talent in the early stages of your company involves a bit of sales approach. Finally, you need a hipster. This is a person who makes your product cool to use. Okay, and understanding that how do you actually delight your customers with every customer interaction is important. So once you identify what are the different sets of skills that you require for your company, you map out what skills does each of your co-founder bring to the table. What's their personality type? Okay, and where are some of the gaps in this process? And then we help you fill out those gaps by either identifying, can you outsource them? Can you add other team members? Can you add advisors, right? And, using this, approach, identifying the skills needed, mapping out the skills that you have, and finding ways to fill out those gaps helps you actually get a better picture and better handle over your team and building your good team. Once you have that in the Hyper Accelerator, we kind of go into the process of making sure you have a good culture within your team. You set up a good process, and your organizational structure is set up for scale. Okay. Now, a lot of times, once you map out your team, you'll realize that you need funds to raise, in order to hire people, and kind of this brings us to our capital strategy framework. In order to identify your capital strategy, we want to first start off by understanding different sources of financing. Okay, there are more than one source of funding. Okay, and you need to understand the difference between a loan or a debt financing and equity financing. Also, you need to identify the difference between an angel investor or an institutional investor or venture capitalist, okay, or a family office. Okay, it's also important to understand how much effort will it take for you to raise your funding. Okay, and we kind of have used some research to identify how much time does it take for you to raise your capital, how many investors you need to contact, how many meetings you need to have, and what is the runway that you should be planning for. Okay, what we find is that you need approximately 40 investor meetings in order to close your seed round. This is an actual data from startups. And what we find is often entrepreneurs would have like 4 or 5 conversations with some local investors, and will either get overly optimistic from those conversations or get really, disappointed from those and might give up, right? You have to understand you're running a marathon. There's a lot of persistence required, okay? And you need to have, it's part of a process, okay? So you need to have approximately 40 investor meetings before you reach out. And then you need to have a clear idea about your funding strategy. So this is kind of, we help you identify through different techniques, we help you identify how do you build out a capital strategy in a most equity efficient way, okay? So what's your expected fund close date? What's the amount that you're raising? What's the runway that you're aiming to have, okay? And then looking into some of your funding sources. What are the different sources of capital where the money comes from? What's your valuation? What is the funding type? And what are some of the fundable events or value creation milestones that you identified earlier associated with each of these rounds? Making sure you map this out well is important, and this helps you in avoiding some of the common founder mistakes And often we see founders end up losing a lot of their ownership in the company because they don't plan this well, because they don't map out different scenarios. We also find that often founders don't understand how value dilution works. So we have created this equity dilution simulator that helps you in identifying, mapping out using a simple sliding scale, different scenarios about how dilution affects your company. Okay, we also have some vocab associated with this. Now, once you have your capital strategy, you need to, think about your pitching to investors. Okay, and I was an introvert growing up. I had a tough time asking even girls out during high school. Okay, but what I found is that if you practice well and you're able to templatize some of your pitch, you might be actually able to do a good job at this, right? So we use, a good template to help founders build their startup pitch. It starts off with an introduction, okay, about your company. This is where the investor is thinking about what is it about. Then when the investor is thinking about, does it fit my investment criteria, we kind of dive into details about your pitch, okay? Something that gives your company the credibility that is required to convince someone. And finally, you should always end with an ask, okay? You need to identify, what are the next steps required and how would you be concluding the success or identifying the success of your meeting. And then, you build out your, your strategy about which investors that you're going to reach out to and when, and you build out your investor pipeline. In the Hyper Accelerator program, we actually help you in creating this investor pipeline by curating a list of top investors for your for your startups, and then working out a plan for building out your roadshow. Okay. Now, this the elevator pitch gets you off on a good start, and we will be having a bit of a session right now about how we help entrepreneurs pitch and pitch training. Okay. But we will also we also have a detailed pitch deck configuration that we use to identify that you can use to pitch your investors. There's a 10-slide pitch deck that we use. Okay, and more importantly, we help you identify which section matters most. Where do investors spend the most time in your pitch deck? What you find is investors are more interested in your team and financials, and entrepreneurs often spend a lot more time on problem or their product. Okay, so there's a bit of a disconnect between that. Okay, also in 2020 and 2021, we find that we often found investors asking the question around what's your COVID-19 strategy. So we want our entrepreneurs to not just answer that question, but hit it out of the park. And we use the simple framework to identify how would you identify new consumer behaviors, new ways of working, and new policies affecting your industry, and leverage a new business model, identify new channels, or introduce new products in order to address this. So this concludes, or this is the overview of the startup course canvas. And again, this forms the basis of our Hyper Accelerator program. And from this, we can talk. We use this to create the backbone process, and there are a lot of different strategic and tactical aspects of the business that we go through. Our goal with the program is to increase your valuation by 2%, and we've been able to achieve that increase by 2.62 times in the past year. And this is some of the numbers associated with the increase in valuation with each sprint. Okay, now this leads into the entrepreneur's journey. Okay, so Ash, I don't know if you want to talk about this.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And as a lot of the startup founders that are here, you're looking to raise money. You're looking to raise funding. You're looking to get to that next step in your business. Hopefully over the session now, you've been able to see how all these frameworks come together. There was a couple of notes in the chat as well around the fact that, you want to raise money, but if you don't get your fundamentals right, if you don't have your cash flow modeling done right, if you don't understand how to price your product or service correctly, if you don't understand the concept of gross margins, then at the end of the day, you're probably going to give up way too much equity. Okay. And you might be just putting a Band-Aid solution on what you're doing, right? So the thing is I know there's a lot of people here that are looking to raise money. Get those fundamentals right. And then also be very clear on your fundable events. Really be clear, because an investor is not looking to just give you money. There is VC math involved. They're looking for obviously a certain return, And we talk a little bit about that during our accelerator program. But more importantly, they're investing in you and your team's ability to succeed in building fundable events. Okay. Right. And creating value around that and having an idea of getting investment for your experiments and hopefully they succeed is a very different process. And it's a mindset process that you need to think about. Okay. And how you link your fundable events with your cash flow modeling is critical as you go through the journey and make this happen, right? Let's play the video, Nalay. Let's talk a little bit about what we do, right? So hopefully everyone here found value today. You know, we are here to support you. Hopefully there was something in the last the last half hour, 45 minutes that really helped. You know, our role as the Hyper Accelerator program is we are the biggest accelerator dedicated to job creation and unleashing human potential, right? We think that it's a very important thing to do in today's world. And so as you're going through the journey, you know, we have these live masterclasses. Hopefully there was something here that got you thinking, okay? If you need a recording, we'll make sure we get a recording to you and we can have the frameworks available to you as well. But if you really want to get going and move things to the next level, what we do is we do have the canvas available to you if you just want to get access to the canvas itself. It's actually designed for the virtual world today. It works on your tablet and Zoom and all the other different platforms that you have. So you and your team can use the frameworks to level up. Okay. It's really important to visually see and get these components together and get your team on board to make sure that all the frameworks and elements are there. And the key thing around it, guys, is, you know, the most important thing is time. And we want you to avoid your first time founder mistakes. Okay. And so if you've liked the session, you found value, you know, pick up one of the printable copies, or if you want the videos and all the other content, feel free to just subscribe. You know, it's a small amount, but we hope there's some value there for you. Now, our marquee program, the thing that we've done over the last couple of years is our Hyper Accelerator program. This is where we find high potential startup founders from around the world. Some of you are here today. Some of you have spoken to me or Nalay already, and we create a global cohort leveraging the frameworks that you just saw, and you are taught by some of the top entrepreneurial professors from around the world to make sure that you have all these components in place. We get the startups to work together as well. So you build your frameworks with other superstar companies around the world, and you really try to, again, uncover the blind spots that are affecting your growth and scale faster. And our goal is to double your valuation in 100 days, right? I know it sounds crazy, but we've done it, and we're very proud of that. And that's also going to help you along the path. We also recognize that in this COVID world, it's always good to kind of find new ways to network and create that international relationship of friends and co-founders. The other thing that we do is we've created what we call the virtual pitch platform. And what this allows you to do is we help you perfect your pitch. And you're going to see that in just 5 minutes. We're going to actually do this live with you guys today. We have expert trainers that help you get your pitch better. So if you want to raise money, you have to make sure that you're on point with your pitch. And then we have a database of 37,000 investors around the world, angel investors, VCs, along with our alumni. And we leverage them to kind of give you more exposure online and get you that exposure that you need in effort to kind of get to that next phase. Another thing that we do is we don't take equity in your company. We think that's the most expensive thing that you give up. What we do is we just charge a monthly service fee, right? And we recommend you spend around 4 months with us, just so we can help you get all these things together and help you raise your next round, right? It's very simple to do. All you have to do is go to hyperaccelerator.com. Some of you have already applied. Some of you have already spoken to us. We try to speak to every single founder, have a one-on-one session with every single founder, just to kind of get a feel of where you're at. We try to make sure that happens really quickly. We know that time is really important. So if you want, please check hyperaccelerator.com and would love to speak to you if we can help you on your journey to raise your valuation, map out everything that we spoke about, and help you raise your next round, right? Nalay, let's quickly cover some of the other components just so it's very clear. On the website as well, there's a simple one-button thing, apply now, okay? So would love to hear from you. if you found value today, we're pretty confident we're going to create some value for you. This is some data on some of the startups that have joined our program over the last couple of months. We've had a 2.62x increase in valuations. We've had 33 countries represented, and you know, and we're very proud again of our track record of getting funding as well. Right. So in terms of how we do it, if you saw the frameworks that Nalay put together, we actually leverage the Google mindset of sprints. And so we've packaged everything that you've heard about in 7 sprints, along with some one-on-one training as well. And this is how we kind of go through the process, right? And so please, you know, we recognize that it's hard to do. And again, we've just tried to make it as simple as possible. And we've kept it as an accelerator, as a service model, because we want to spend time with you and we don't feel that you should give up equity. So all the components, we have AI powered tools that are going to help you through the journey with some of your copy and all the other things that, you know, I used to hate doing as an entrepreneur, to get you on your way. So that's that. I think, Nalay, if people want access to the canvas, feel free to check that out. All the details are there. There is you can get access to that, and let's move on. So this is the canvas. If you just want to get access to all the stuff that we did today, feel free to you will get a link after the session, and it's also available in the chat. So feel free to contribute, and you know, look forward to that. Now, what we're going to do now, because we're running a little bit over time, I know that we have a couple of our people in here. We are actually now going to go into the elevator pitch training session. So we finished the masterclass. Now we're going to show you live how we help train startup founders from around the world. So we have a couple of people that have asked to come on board, but let's cue the video, Nalay, just to kind of warm everyone up. Go ahead. All right. So we are going to, this is the elevator pitch. And what's going to happen is we have 2 contestants that have come, right? Nalay, are they in
Yes,
the house? I think maybe I'll.
So we have Tidar here.
Tidar. Okay, so maybe I'll start with him. And let me. What I'm going to do is just to kind of frame things up while he joins. Is we have these live elevator pitch. Hi, Tidar, how are you? Great to see you. So we have these virtual background. I'm actually going to be going up the World Trade Center right now, and we're going to simulate what happens in the real world, right? So Tidar, what's going to happen is I'm going to hit the top. Once I hit the top, I'm going to introduce myself as an investor, and you have 1 minute, okay, to pitch your idea to me. Okay, is that okay?
Let's try. In the real world, I never talk with the angel in an elevator, but let's.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we're going to try to make it real. We're going to try to simulate what happens, because usually you only have a short period of time to connect with somebody and make it happen. So let's simulate that. And where are you joining us from today? Just so everyone else knows.
Actually, right now I'm from my home. Okay. I live in a village near Tel Aviv, but
everything in Israel. Okay, so
everything in Israel is near Tel Aviv.
Yes, excellent. Well, great to have you here. You know, look forward to hearing your pitch. And so what's going to happen is, again, we're going to go up. once I hit the top, I'll introduce myself. You'll have a minute. And then once I hit the top again, I will excuse myself. I'm going to try and make it as real as possible. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to have to try to, whatever you want in 1 minute, right? Whatever you want. And then I will give a pitch back as well. Okay. Teddy, I'm going to do that for you. Okay. And I'm going to try with no preparation, with 2 minutes of preparation. I'm going to see if I don't embarrass myself in front of everyone here today. All right. So over to you. We're hitting the top of the World Trade Center. I'm going to shoot down. I'm going to introduce myself. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ash Singh. How are you doing?
I'm great. I need to pitch. Okay.
Yes, you do.
Okay, so I'm Tilha. Hello. So I'm Tilha. I'm the CEO of the Accents. The Accents provide a tailor-made predictive maintenance solutions for production line, machines, and other critical assets. In our new venture here in the Hyper Accelerator, we provide manufacturers and building owners a significant reduction of energy consumption of the chillers and the heating station. We are implementing a unique approach that treats the chillers or the heat exchangers as one energy bank and optimize the chiller throughput. As a result of our work, our clients decrease their energy consumption by 25 to 35% over the course of 2 months from deployment. Moreover, we operate the critical assets at their best performance, avoiding faults and abnormal situations and enlarging their lifespan. I'm looking for manufacturers and building owners who are eager to save energy and making this world a greener place. What do you know?
Got it. All right. So you're looking for some links. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for the pitch. Now, before I pitch back, just want to get a couple of notes in, right? When you're doing an elevator pitch, in this session, you didn't ask for money, right? You wanted to kind of find more people to collaborate with, correct? Right? Now, just so we're clear, because a lot of people might not know this, you talked about the chillers, right? You also talked about the, sorry?
All the critical assets that actually consume a lot of energy. HVAC, chillers, and heating station, heat exchangers.
The heating station, is it called heating station? Heating station, right?
Or heat exchangers. It's dependent.
Okay. Heat exchangers, yeah. So essentially, like,
got it.
You kind of help in identifying which, the consumption using your IoT device. Is that fair to say?
We are actually manage all chillers facilities in the building as one energy bank. And by doing that, we are controlling on the throughput. We are controlling on we can play with the set point of the temperatures in and temperature out. We can do a lot of things.
Okay.
The issue
essentially, it's actually monitoring and controlling the energy distribution between different devices, so that you can do it. You can optimize for efficiency and you can optimize for performance.
Exactly.
Okay. Is there a is there a maintenance aspect to it as well? Like, you help in reducing wear and tear?
Eventually, because we operate those critical assets at their best performance, we are always look for that they will working in the optimized way. Okay. Eventually, we are let's say saving in the downtime of a machine due to unexpected failure and so on. We implement predictive maintenance models as well, but this is not the main issue.
Tell me about how much money like if I were to use your thing, I'm a building, right? Your ideal customer is somebody who owns like a building, right? A corporate building, an office building.
Someone who pays the bills.
Somebody who pays the bills. Okay. So my question to you is how, with regards to the, how much money do they save? They use your service, right? Suppose I have a 20-year-old building, typical customer, right? Because some of the new buildings might have some more advanced features, but it's an old building. We put your systems in. How much money do they save? How much more efficiencies do they get? How many less people do they hire? What's the angle here? Like, imagine the building owners are people that are just trying to save money.
Exactly. It depends on the number of chillers that you have. It depends on the let's say how the heat the cold is going to transfer inside the building area, okay? Because eventually we are looking to operate those facilities as one energy bank, and we will be in charge for the demand for heat and cool, okay?
Sure.
By doing that, we will manage each heat exchangers or chillers separately, okay? So it depends. If you have only one unit, we cannot do a lot, and there are common, let's say, solutions in the market, okay? Kind of a retrofit kit for any single chillers, but there is no such concept to treat all the units together.
So my question remains, how much money would they save? If you do a good job, how much do they save on their energy bill?
So as I told you, it can be something between 25, 20 at the worst case to 35%. And those equipment are love energy. Okay, so
they do, but that's a lot of money, correct? Like 30% energy savings is quite a lot, correct?
Exactly.
Right. What does that mean for a building? Let's give me numbers. I like to, because I'm an investor, right? Investor likes to see, he likes to talk numbers. So percentages are warming up. But like if I'm a building, right? Let's take a typical building that everyone would understand. Okay. Suppose you have like the Sears Tower in Chicago. Okay. Right.
I'm not familiar with the.
Oh, you're not? Okay, sorry. I'm just trying to think about which building. I can't remember the buildings that I visited when I was in Israel, but
if you're talking about common, let's say, public buildings or office buildings,
50 story, 30 story, 30 story building.
Yeah.
30 stories too high.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
We made a project in an office building inside the mall. Okay, and it's huge and too high, and we saved their energy consumption by about 1/3 of their energy, and it's about 1.5 million in a year, in 1 year. It's in shekel, okay, but it's a lot of money. It's somewhere between $300, $300,000. Yes.
Teddy, do you need investment, or are you just looking for customers? Tell me what you need.
Actually, I'm looking to. I miss two things. First of all, I want to do it, let's say, to be scalable, and in order to do that, I need to develop a kind of a controller that will attach to the controller of the chillers, and I just need to configure it and do it like a plug and play. But the issue today, we are doing it with the integrators, and we provide a control system as well. And it's like a little project.
Understood.
But I'm looking for a strategic investor that this kind of solutions is interesting. And together with him, we can take, and through his channel, we can spread in the US. Because alone, I cannot do it.
Understood. Okay, so you need an integrated partner, somebody who's going to invest, but a smart investor that's going to help you with your R&D to build an integrated solution and also open doors for you.
Somebody who actually I want to show him that this concept solution is working. Okay. Although we do several projects in Israel, I want to take it to the US, and then after we will be pleased with the result. We can think about cooperation and how to duplicate success.
Got it. All right.
I need a partner for the marketing, for his relationship, his
business development as well, right? So there's a specific group of people, right? The building management companies.
Yeah, correct. But you need to understand that right now he's working as well, but not as.
You want to scale. You're ready for the next level. All right, Teddy. Do you want me to pitch this idea back to you? Okay, this is all the notes I took, by the way, in the last couple of minutes, and I'm going to try and do this. All right. So DiagSense, I'm going to try and pitch your idea. I'm going to wait till I hit the top. You introduce yourself to me. Ready? Are you ready, Teddy? You're an investor now.
Hi, hello. Hi,
Teddy.
Ash. How are you?
I'm very well, Teddy. My name is Ash Singh. I'm part of the DiagSense team. As you might be aware, climate change is a big deal, and the biggest polluter on the planet, one of the biggest polluters, are these giant old office buildings around the world that have these giant heaters and chillers that are just creating a huge carbon footprint, right? What we've done is we've created a smart AI-powered energy bank that connects everything together for all of these buildings and allows us to use AI to make sure that it's performing properly at the right level. If it's cold outside, we make sure it's warm inside. We've developed this concept here in Israel, and now we're looking to expand it to the next level. What we've discovered is in our pilots that a building can save 30% of their energy costs, which is almost $1 million a year in savings. We are now looking to take it to the next level. We're looking for a partner who's going to help us with our R&D and take us to the next level outside of Israel, hopefully in the US. I'd love to talk to you about our platform over a coffee.
I prefer a beer, but coffee will be.
That's even
all right.
better.
All right. So do you see what I did with that? Teddy, was that helpful?
Very, very helpful. I would like to get the recording, but
no problem. We will send a recording. And what I wanted to do as part of your pitch is, the thing is climate change and all these other things, Teddy, my view on it is that you should be powering this program as, you go to the US, especially now because Biden has a big climate initiative. Get subsidies from the government as well as these building management partners that you're looking for. Do you know what I mean? Package it together. Now is your time, my friend. You want to go to the US, now is the time. The administration is looking to do that. And that's what I want you to put together, because climate control and all this energy stuff is a big issue in the US. It's a big issue in Singapore, right? And I think just really zeroing in on the stuff that people don't want to do, right? No one wants to work on old buildings. Everyone wants the new building, right? Focus on the business of what you're doing. Focus on the old stuff and make your money, Teddy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Teddy, it's awesome to see you again. I'm going to hand it over now to Professor Nalay Goyal for the next contestant. All right. Thank you, Teddy. Cheers.
Cheers. All right. So the next up from Israel, we go to Toronto. We come back to Toronto, rather, a fellow Torontonian. Hey, Ulysses, how are you doing?
Hey, Professor Nile, how are you doing? Thank you, Hash. Thank you for taking me on the call today.
No problem.
It's very good to see you as well.
Great to have you here. You're calling from downtown. Are you downtown?
Yeah, this is downtown. This is
nice.
The financial district right there.
Nice. Well, great to have you here, and great to have a fellow Canadian on our session. What we're going to do is we are going to kick off now. Everyone had a chance to hear me. I started off, but I'm kind of like Robin, Batman. Nalay Goyal is now going to be the next guy, right? So you're going to get to pitch Nalay, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to head up as we normally do. And Nalay, you can warm up and be ready. And we want to, obviously help level up and make this a power experience. So over to you guys.
All right. So you know the drill, Ulysses. We'll use our virtual backgrounds as the timer. Okay. So when we hit the top, I'm going to introduce myself, and that'll be your cue to begin. Okay.
Amazing.
So I'm hitting the top. Let's begin. Okay. Hi, Ulysses. My name is Nilay. How are you doing?
I'm great, Nilay. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you. Tell me about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Ulysses, and I work as a data scientist for the government right now. The problem that we are solving is legacy identification process and management. We're providing a modern solution to identification ecosystem as an identification ecosystem. So what it does is pretty much to provide a framework to digitize driver's license and health cards. It's applicable in healthcare, in finance as well. So to provide a more fluid. So it's very complicated for me to do the elevator pitch. So if you allow me, I'll try to do it again. So can we kick it off again?
Sure. No.
So that's
so
really
let's pause. What we're going to do, we're going to hit the top again.
I am struggling with actually is
no problem.
Being in front of people, explaining the idea. So
it's very hard to be put on the spot. We totally understand. Now, Nalay and I have been doing this for a very, very long time. If you guys saw me 12, 13 years ago, I totally understand. So what we're going to do is we can kick it off again. Right now, Nalay, did you play the video on an elevator pitch? What constitutes an elevator pitch? Do we have the Professor Hans video? Do you want to show him that, or do you want to just jump into it? Like what we can do?
We can jump in.
Yeah.
I think I have the video. Isn't it about the story and having a way to?
So what happens is that
the
you're
problem,
doing
solution.
let's warm you up a bit, right? I'm going to give, because Nalay's going to do the pitch back, so I'm going to be your coach right now. See, when you think about identity, right, you might start off with the problem, because in what you said, you talked about driver's license and health cards, correct? Okay.
Correct.
And the identity around that. So I would just pick up the discussion and talk about the problem with driver's licenses and health cards, right? How much it costs, all of this stuff, and how you are creating a solution that is ready for 2021, that's going to make it easier, faster, cheaper for governments to issue these identification elements, and how you are the right person to do it, and why Canada, if that's where you're launching and that's where you want to do, is the best place for you to start. Okay. Sure. That's how I would kind of put it together. And if you can, bring in a little bit of your secret sauce. Do you know what I mean? Because you're a data scientist, right? So you gotta remember, I'm an investor. I'm not as smart as you, right? You know what I mean? Like VCs, they're not, I mean, we love VCs. We are also VCs, we invest, but they're not at, from a data science perspective, we want you to dumb down the tech. So it's like, oh, that's an interesting way to address this problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we're going to go right up. Are you ready again? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So Nalay, I'm going to hand it back to you. We're going to head up again, and we'll go again. No problem, guys.
Breath. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's just
no
take
problem.
A deep breath. You can do it. I mean, I've seen you, being in much better, more pressurized situations. This is a friendly environment. Yeah. Just focus on, just chill and just focus on what you got. Okay. So let's begin. I'm hitting the top. Okay. Let's start again. Okay.
Okay. Hani, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Ulysses?
I'm doing great. So let me tell you about the problem we're trying to solve. This is a legacy identification system. We find out that plastic IDs and non-biometric systems are exposed to identity fraud and identity theft. So paper and plastic identity documents are praised to the application. And since the encryption threshold is much lower due to technological advancement, it's easier for hackers to provide a duplicate version of a piece of ID. Beyond this, we count about $104 million lost every year in Canada due to identity fraud, identity theft. The financial industries, the insurance and healthcare industries are the most touched by those events, and we count about $8 million lost every month by those companies. Also, there's about 20,000 victims every year of ID fraud. The solution that we provide is a modern digital identification ecosystem. So it's safe, it's secure, it's based on decentralized ledger. The encrypted biometric system really unleashes the power of artificial intelligence through the facial recognition. This is just one item of the biometric encryption. It's also time efficient and very convenient for the user. So in the big lines, why do we use the EID? Why do we use the digital ID? It's to help governments on their digital transformation journey, as the need for a universal identification system arise in healthcare, internal security, and global travels.
Yes.
So we are a growing company. We're seeking for $1.3 million in seed as an exchange of 8% of equity, and we are valued at $8.4 million following the Berkus method.
Okay. All right. So let's get some feedback on that, Nalay. Thank you, Ulysses. We got that going. Let's give some feedback on it. So part of as you do this, right? So what you'll find and you're going to see how we do it, how Nalay does it. What you want to do is, because we went a little bit long, but I think that there was really good pieces that you put together there, right?
Exactly.
For me, I kind of wanted to know the story about, because you are selling a product to governments. Okay.
Correct.
And so for me, sometimes it's good to kind of put the whole story together. The reality right now is, with cryptocurrencies and all the other things that are happening in the world, governments need to digitize, correct? Digitize, right?
Correct,
so whether it's your currency, your driver's license, your healthcare, your social insurance card, all of these things need to kind of come together. Okay. And there are examples of where it's happening, right? Some countries, you know, I know in Singapore, they've done a pretty good job with this, in Japan, but, you know, just kind of framing up why we're here. And then it's like, okay, you know, we have discovered that using our platform is the, you know, and then go into the why. The why is like, why is this so expensive, right? Like, you know, you talked about fraud, right? Like license fraud and healthcare fraud. How much does that cost the Canadian government or the Ontario government or, you know, the state government? Right? What is that? What is that costing them, right? And then and then how overall, and then how is your solution going to be that simple, novel way to bridge the gap between that boring card that has a hologram, because that's what the security is right now, right? It's a hologram, okay, versus what you want to do, okay? That is really critical, right? And you just have to be able to bridge it in, okay? And then talk about, you know, how this is going to permeate. And because people want to, you know, you talk about distributed ledger and all these other words, you want to kind of create the use case understanding of what they're doing, right? How does the person interact with it? What is the future of the card now? What is it? And then what is the back-end tech, right? So this is a classic case because you're a hacker, not a hustler. So as a hacker, you're talking about the inside before going on the outside, but a VC wants to know the outside before he come in. You know, he wants to know the Ferrari looks good, red Ferrari outside, sleek, before he goes and looks at under the hood, okay? Versus hackers like to go under the hood and talk about, you know what I mean? The torque, and then they talk about the body because the body doesn't really matter because that's not important, right? I get that. And then come in with an ask, and what you want to do is you want to look at that investor right in the eyes, okay? Don't look away because you need to have that conviction of what you want to raise, okay? And you have to tell them what it's for, okay? And have that confidence. You got to just look them in the eye and just say, this is what I need. And that's the most confident component that you want to have, okay? Remember, an investor is looking at every single thing that you're doing, okay? Where your eyes are going. When we ask the questions, are his eyes wandering? Does he have the conviction? Is he ready? Is he prepared for the answers for the questions we have? When he's pitching, his body language, right? How you're standing, how you're carrying yourself, right? How do you own the room? Okay. It's hard to do. That's why practice is important. But that's my view on your stuff, right? Nalay, over to you.
No, indeed. And thanks, Ash, for sharing that. There's some good feedback there. So yeah, I mean, so Ulysses, like, you know, essentially you're targeting governments, but you're also targeting, you mentioned in your pitch about finance, insurance, and the healthcare systems. Are you targeting companies in that area as well to manage their ID process? Because as I understand, like those are some of the biggest, you know, most of the data leaks that happen within either financial systems, insurance companies, or healthcare systems. So, you know, are you targeting them as customers as well?
Yeah, we're targeting them as customers, and it's also part of a secret sauce, which is to build a data equity framework to counter the data collection biases, right? Right now, there's a huge discussion around are those models safe enough for communities? There's different techniques that Google, Facebook, and different actors in the field are working to provide a solution. And the goal is really to bring those actors around the same table around one product that will be used for multiple governments. So we can start as small as possible, as small as needed, one province, one country, that will be Canada, and eventually expand to other countries, because at the end of the day, this is one universal piece of ID. When you go from Canada to the States, this is the same passport that you use and same passport framework that's used overseas as well. So why don't we have a digital option for a paper version of a piece of ID?
Yes. Just one point around buzzwords, because I was just reading a quick chat. I want to just reference this because I know Frank's been pretty vocal today. Thank you, Frank, for your comments. As you go through the journey as well now, guys, remember that there are some buzzwords that kind of turn off investors, because you need to make sure that you apply it in the right frame, in the right framework. So for instance, Frank made an interesting point. when you think about AI, right? We've been doing startups for 15 years, right? So there was a time when the word app was really cool. There was a time when blockchain was really cool. There was a time when distributed ledger, okay, as part of blockchain, right? And AI and machine learning and all this other stuff, right? I think actually doing it, like in my pitch that I did earlier, I should have actually talked more about how the AI worked, which I didn't do for Teddy. I ran out of time. But talking a little bit about those components is important, right? Because I think investors know that startups tend to throw words just to, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's like sex in high school, right? Everyone's talking about it, but nobody's doing it. You know what I mean? Right? Exactly, so it's the same idea. You just want to make sure we validate that, right? So just
it's kind of interesting that because you use some blockchain, you mentioned distributed ledger in your pitch, but you didn't but that is kind of you use some blockchain technologies and distributed technologies to kind of enable some of the data access features, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, and so you're raising 1.3 million in seed. Tell me a little bit about what stage you're at right now, and have you gotten any tests or pilots right now? What stage you're at right now? Tell me a little bit about that.
We have a prototype of the products. We have a CRM. We have SDKs to integrate the mobile apps into the CRM. So if you go to a dentist, for instance, you can just show your EID, and the EID will be integrated to the dentist CRMs, so they can retrieve eventually your cases. So we want to use the funds to build teams, product development, a little bit of marketing as well. But most important is focus on the engine, the product and product development. This is really where we want to focus on right now. There's also a legal aspect that's very important because we're collecting very sensitive data. And as we said, the data equity framework is a major part of the digital ID. People are concerned about the safety, the security of the mobile app, and we really want to invest in those areas as well.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good to know. Okay. So yeah, I mean, okay, so that's good to know. I think that gives him a good picture. So yeah, I mean, do you want me to pitch your idea back to you?
Please.
Okay, so let's do that. Okay, I have some thoughts here. We'll wait for me to hit the top, and I'm hitting the top right now, and we'll begin. You can start with an introduction, and I'll begin when we hit the top. Okay. All right, let's go for it. Right, so I'll begin. Hi, Ulysses. My name is Nalay, and I'm part of the Tethys ID team. ID theft and identity theft is a big problem around the world. In Canada alone, $104 million were lost last year just to ID theft. And most of these leaks happen because of the data stored within the databases of financial institutions, insurance companies, and healthcare organizations, because they often store this data along with their CRM systems, and often they get hacked. At Tethys ID, we are creating a digital identity platform that digitizes customers' driver's license, health cards, and passport and other information, creates a separate, encrypts it using biometrics, and creates a set of separation between the existing systems of these organizations and our platform, highly secure platform through this. Currently, we have built up a prototype and SDKs, and we are doing some pilots, and we are looking to raise $1.3 million in order to kind of take it to the next level and implement this system-wide. I've been working with the government on this for many years, and I look forward to kind of taking this to the governments as well. And would you be interested in a coffee in order to make our identities more secure?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I went a little bit over time. Okay. I think the thing is that there are certain things that I try to bring on, and I was actually also thank you, Frank, for some good feedback. You actually the root cause of the problem that we identified was that there are hacks happening with these digital IDs being stored on the platforms of these financial organizations and insurance companies. And that's where the ID gets stolen. That's where most of the cases times these leaks happen. and you're actually building a system that replaces those, existing systems with your system, where you have a bit of separation. You just use biometrics to authenticate, and you just send that's a typical ID, management platforms. That's what typically they do, right? They create a level of separation between these systems, or the data
sort
systems. Exactly. And I think sometimes it's not clear for many people, many investors who are not from the industry, okay, that, like a digital ID platform essentially creates that level of separation. And you essentially do that, using a biometric encryption and, create that secure system. I also tried to bring in at the end, and that's where I went over time, was your credibility. Okay, and I made up some numbers. I didn't have the knowledge about how many years of experience in cybersecurity do you have? Okay, how much, what makes you the person, right?
Yeah.
Just adding a quick one-liner, right? Like, I have 20 plus years of experience in the
so I've been researching in mathematics. I was researching mathematics. I worked for several multinationals, Nestle, L'Oreal, Bell, Ministry of Health, and so on. So I've built systems for them for the last 7 years. So I've been working on security and databases systems for.
And you're a researcher in this area, right? You're associated with University of Toronto as well.
I've done research. Yes, I've done research.
Yeah. So so you have to bring those elements to give you credibility as well, right? So being a researcher in the cybersecurity space, working for years with large corporations and helping implement these systems, that's where I think you want to add a little bit of just that, okay, to just kind of incite the interest among in the elevator pitch.
But it was good, Billy. I liked your pitch back. Yep. Hopefully you found value. Listen, it's always great to have you here. And as we do this, right, we want everyone to level up. So we will send you a recording, and we want to make sure that we're allowing you to hear your startup from somebody else's perspective, right? And we hope that that's a powerful experience for you, right? And as part of the journey, Nalay and I aren't perfect, but we've just done this now. We've got like our 10,000 hours of experience now doing this. So our hope is that you find some of the elements and it strikes a chord. Because as we mentioned in the framework, you need to have 40 investor meetings. How do you make sure that it's impactful? Every single word that you say, every single word that's written on your pitch deck has to tell a story, right? And we want to package it all together to entice these investors, okay? Along with the fundamentals, which is what we covered earlier, making sure your fundamentals are there, because you can get people to have investor meetings, but if your bases aren't there, you're going to fail due diligence and waste your time, right? But it was great to have you here. It was great to have Teddy from Israel as well. Nalay, I know we went a little bit over time. I want to thank everyone for joining. I know we went a little bit over time, but I want to thank everyone for coming again today. It was a great session. Right. We will post this recording as well for everyone. Feel free to connect with us in any way that we can help you on your startup journey. On behalf of Professor Nalay Goyal, as well as the rest of the team, Simran, Doug, and the rest of the team that was here, thank you for joining us. And I will conclude with a quote from Michelangelo. One of my favorite quotes is that the greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. On behalf of our team, I want to thank everyone again for joining us. Take care, stay safe, and God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.